There we go. Thank you.
Mouse. My mouse is left. Went to. Oops. All right. All right. Well, I'm really excited to be here to talk with you today about a topic that I have been involved with for my whole career, I would say. And that's about mindset. Whoops, I went back far enough. What did I do? There we go. My slides are moving on their own. There we go. On developing a growth mindset. And I think it's something we need to revisit on often in ourselves, because we can very easily fall into the trap of a fixed mindset. But also, I think in this day and age, it's really appropriate for us to talk about this today. So, our greatest glory is not, I have never fallen, but in rising every time we fall. Confucius said that. Nothing is impossible. The word itself is I'm possible. That was Audrey Hepburn. That's kind of my favorite. And failure is simply the opportunity to begin again, this time more intelligently. From Henry Ford. I want to start by telling you a memory from my third grade experience from me. Actually, two things I want to just preface, because I was very lucky that I don't think we called it growth mindset and set mindset back then, but I was lucky that my parents didn't believe in that. But my third grade teacher, when my parents went in for my parent-teacher conferences, she didn't have real nice things to say. She didn't realize that for my second grade, I had been taught by my mom at home because I had rheumatic fever, which at that time, that meant bed rest. And so she didn't realize that for some reason, didn't realize that I had been through that. But she told my parents that I just needed to they needed not to expect a whole lot from me, because I wasn't going to go very far. And my parents didn't buy into that at all. And I'm very lucky they didn't buy into that, because it could have affected where I went in the future. But it was that fixed mindset that she believed that I couldn't get better. And the fact that my parents decided that I could. If I hadn't had those type of parents, I never would have made it to where I am today and all the things that I did over my career. Because according to her, I wasn't going to go to college if they had followed that mindset that was given them by the teacher. So we have to realize that a lot of things that happen to us in the present affecting of it came from our past as we grew up, and what we were surrounded with, and what we were used to seeing, and what we were taught. So we really need to think about that and realize that our memories can carry with us, and that if we carry some fixed mindset things that we haven't challenged, we could have problems going forward. So a growth versus a fixed mindset. You can have a growth mindset in some areas and a fixed mindset in others. And that's not a bad thing, but you want your growth mindset to be greater than your fixed mindset. Because a fixed mindset means you're not going anywhere. You're fixed on what you're doing and you're not going to change. And a growth mindset means it might change. There might be opportunities for it to change. So, oops, I went too soon, but that's okay. So I've been studying my whole career. I've been following and studying mindset by Dr. Susan Dweck. She's an American psychologist, and she holds the Lewis and Virginia Eaton Professor of Psychology at Stanford University. And she's known for her work in motivation, but most intently in mindset. And she did a study that started this all for her before we even knew of this type of mindset. She focused in the context of education, and she sought to understand why some students give up in the face of failure and while others thrive. Over 3 decades of her research has shown that the way students think about intelligence and their ability affects their motivation and their achievement in school. Moreover, this work has demonstrated that it's possible to change a student's mindset in ways that can have lasting impact in their academic trajectories. And this is true in the workforce as well. So how a leader thinks of their employees, how that is set up, also can affect their trajectory. So she took a group of students and worked with them for a little while, and then she placed them into 2 different categories as they began to solve more difficult problems. Most of them got frustrated when they got a problem they couldn't do. They didn't see it as an opportunity to grow and learn something new. They thought they were not smart enough or had the ability to do it. And they felt like, oh, I'm not as smart as I thought I was because I can't do this. Those students had a fixed mindset. Now, the smaller group thought differently. When they got to the puzzle, they got excited. And when she listened to their explanation for the excited reaction, they said, it's a puzzle, so there must be an answer. So we will learn something new. So when pushed at something that they didn't know how to do or that they failed at, they looked at it as an opportunity to learn something new. So they have a growth mindset. So as you're looking at developing your growth mindset, it involves embracing challenges, persisting through difficulties, viewing failures as opportunities for learning. And in the next few minutes, I'm going to talk to you about some strategies that you can pick and cultivate to grow your mindset and to have a growth mindset. First, you must embrace challenges. You need to seek out new experiences to push yourself out of your comfort zone. We've all heard of the comfort zone, right? That's the box we put ourselves in, saying we can't do except what's in that box. We can't do anything outside that box. So we need to be able to challenge that and push ourselves out of that comfort zone and try new experiences. We need to view challenges as opportunities for growth rather than obstacles. Too many times we see it as an obstacle. I'm not going to do this because it's going to take a lot of work and I'm going to have to work really hard at this and it's an obstacle for me. I don't want to do this. If you are hiring new staff, as you're interviewing, pay attention to their ability to learn new things. Challenge them with questions about what they've done in their previous work or in their previous life or school. What are the things that they have done? And challenge them. This way, they'll be open to developing new skills. Because you know, as well as I do, when you go into a new job, you've got new skills to learn, even if you've done that job somewhere else before. It's not going to be quite the same. You're going to seek new tasks, actions, and tactics or strategies as experiments, and you're going to see them as leading to new insights, rather than something you must lead you to success. Because not everything is going to be what we classify as a success, but it's a learning opportunity and is a chance for you to grow with that mindset. We need to discuss the values of feedback in personal and professional development. I can tell you over the years, I have had bosses, I guess that's what word I'll use for them, who have always been more negative than positive when they do their reviews. And I remember a time when I was at running an ICU at ICU and intermediate unit at a small hospital early in my career, and nobody wanted to come in for their evaluations. Like, everybody out on the floor that day was just a mess because they had to come into my office and have an evaluation. And finally, a brave soul came in to have her evaluation. And she said, I started talking to her about goals, started talking about how her year was going, those kind of things. And she says, aren't you going to tell me all the things I did wrong this year? Aren't you going to tell me all these things? And I said, I know I've only been here 6 months, but have I not come to you if I've seen some place you could improve, and have you not improved? And she said, well, yeah, I have. And I said, so why do you say that? She said, because I've never had a boss who hasn't saved up the whole year and then thrown it at me in an evaluation. And I don't even remember the first of the year. I don't remember what I did the first of the year. And it was a light bulb for me, because I thought, that's not the way I was trained. I had good mentors that taught me not to do that, to always start with something positive before you give them a negative. And when she left, I kind of listened at the door, and everybody says, you're done already? Are you still working here? Those kind of comments. And I said, no, it was great. She didn't go back in the past. We talked about where my goals and where I want to go in the future. And I'm so thankful for my mentor who taught me that, because I carried that out through my whole career, that we need to be giving people valuable feedback real time. And we have to teach people to not see negative feedback as criticism, but as a chance to reflect and to learn and improve. So we need to frame it in that way. We have to frame it in a positive light, that they can do it and they can make it better. And when we reflect on what you can learn from negative feedback, instead of taking it personally. And I know I've taken some of my reviews personally over the years, and I'm sure all of you have as well. And it's a mindset. It's that positive mindset and that framework that you need to put into place to be able to take what people give you, think about it, think, how did I do that, or is that just their perception, or how can I make that better? We need to celebrate our efforts, not just our results. I was in healthcare my whole career, and I can tell you pretty much everything was emphasized around results. What are your results? What are the results you got? And you need to emphasize that effort and perseverance are the key to achieving those goals, not just the result at the end. We need to recognize and reward the effort regardless of the outcome. So I worked in transplant. So from the procurement side all the way through the ICUs to running huge academic medical center transplant programs. And if we had stopped at every failure we had in the lab, or every failure we had going forward because I was in the forefront at the beginning of transplant when we were fighting the ethicists in Cleveland over whether what brain death was. If we had stopped at any given time, if my doctors, my nurses, my researchers, if they had stopped at any time, we wouldn't be where we are today in transplant. Because they recognized and rewarded their efforts, and took from that not a negative, but a positive, that now they can move forward and try something different. They needed to try a different way. They didn't give up. So focus on the process of learning and improvement rather than just achieving the set goals. You need to cultivate curiosity. I love this picture of this little guy looking with his microscope at the ants on the ground. We've lost a lot of that curiosity. We've lost the creativity. our workers get into a set thing, and they lose their ability to think of things in different ways, because we kind of box them in sometimes. And so we have to always be asking questions and seeking to understand different perspectives. And in doing that, we need to adopt a mindset of lifelong learning. We need to explore new subjects, new skills regularly. We need to make that offering to our staff as well. I was lucky that I had that offering, those offerings, and that's how I learned and grew. And one of the laws of one of the books, and one of my mentors, John Maxwell, it's called it's the 21 Laws, and is the name of the book. But one is that we need to I lost my train of thought. Sorry about that. I realized that in those laws, there was one about growth that I needed to remember always, and that I needed to adapt my mindset to that. And so being able to learn and to grow is very, very important. And that curiosity is key to doing that. I think so often, if you think about children are always curious. I have a now 10-year-old grandson, but when he was little, it was amazing to watch him again, the curiosity of how things work and what he could do. We lose that sometimes because we get in such a rut, in a fixed mindset, that we can do this, and this is the only thing we're going to do. And we lose our curiosity. So we need to adapt a mindset of lifelong learning, because that's really going to help us grow and be happy at what we're doing. And if we're not happy at what we're doing, we need to look for some place that we are happy. We need to learn to reframe failure. I love this Einstein quote where he says, anyone who has never made a mistake has never tried anything new. And I think he says it all right there. We have to learn to reframe failure and make it a valuable lesson and a learning experience. We need to analyze what went wrong and how can we do it better next time. Like I said a little bit ago about, it's not the end result that necessarily is it, it's the process. What did we go through? What did we learn from it? And how can we make it better next time? And I really don't like to use the word failure. It's not something in my vocabulary. I like to think of it as an opportunity, because every time something doesn't work, we have an opportunity to look at it and look back on it. Why didn't it work? What could we have done differently? What could we do differently to make it successful? So I encourage you to get rid of that word failure. This is a big one. You need to surround yourself with growth-minded people. I think that is the biggest thing I learned from my first mentor when I was as my brand new assistant manager in a medical ICU, is that she said, you need to get around people that are doing things that you would like to do, but you don't know how to do, or be around people who are not stuck where they are. If they're stuck. And what I tell my clients is, I tell them, if you think about 3 circles, and you've got your inner circle, and those should be your tight-knit people that you really trust and you really want to work with. But to do that, to have that tight circle in the middle, you need to get rid of some of the people that have been there, taking up space, bringing negative space in. And that could be friends, it could be coworkers, it could be family. And you need to move them out to the next ring, where you're not constant, but you're still work with them, and you're still got a good relationship. And then you need to have the ones that you put out in the outer circle, and you only see them at holidays. because they're set on a fixed mindset, and they're stifling your growth. And that could be from parents, that could be from friends, that could be from siblings, anybody. So you need to make sure you surround yourself with people who are wanting to grow. When I look back at history, it still boggles my mind that people stayed in the same job forever. And we're happy about that. That just wouldn't work for me. But for some people, that's where they want to stay. We've got nurses out there that have been in the same job, in the same unit for 40 years, right? And they're good at what they do, but they probably could have done more had they been wanting to grow. So engage with individuals who are also very growth-minded and they value learning. Share your experiences and your insights, and build a supportive environment. That's very, very important, because we get so isolated and we get so in a rut of going to work all day and then coming home and getting right into being at home. And we really need to get a balance in that. You need to set learning goals. Focus on specific skills and areas of knowledge that you want to develop. What is it that you're passionate about? So many times for a while, I did some interim work in transplant. They needed somebody to go in while they were looking for their next director or whatever. And I went in and did that. And a lot of what I found was people were hiring and putting butts in seats. And the person was taking the job because they wanted a job or wanted to get into that, but they weren't in the right position. They weren't in the right place for them. They were just rotely doing this job and had no passion for that piece. And I saw that a lot when I'd go in to assess a facility. And it's amazing if you get them moved into the right place, they do so much better. They're able to grow, and they're able to focus on something that they're interested in. And some people just don't want to do this. And it's time then, as the boss, it's time for me to help them find a place where they'll be happy. And when my last job that I ended up staying at, I went in and we implemented a whole new system for transplant. And people said, you'll never get this done. This is not going to happen. And I'm always a vision caster. I like to cast the vision, and then I like to bring people on board. So we did a little fair where we picked skills that people had said people were having problems with, and we had them do this little fair. And we found out some people were willing to help other people and do those kind of things. So as we started to implement, I made sure I put all my naysayers on the different organ teams, so that they were part of the process. And it was amazing to watch these people. I gave them one directive: train's leaving the station, you're either on the train or you're off the train. If you want to be off the train, I'll be glad to help you find another position. But when we finally launched, I didn't do the work. All my staff and the physicians did the work to get to that point. It took us 1.5 years to get to that point. But when we launched, Epic said we were the first place that they ever left the first day. They brought a whole team in, and we didn't need it because everybody had bought into the concept, because they were all a part of the process. And so I think setting learning goals for each of your employees, if you're a boss, or setting learning goals for yourself. What do you want to do, and where do you want to be in the future? So track your progress and celebrate those small milestones along the way as you start learning new things, because we can't lack for learning in this day and age, because everything's changing as fast as we learn one thing, it's changed again. we also have to practice self-compassion. And this is what I work with my clients and with people. We have to take care of ourselves first. Think of the airplane, right? When you get on the airplane, they go over all that. Now you watch the video, but it used to be the stewardess would demonstrate. But they always say, if the cabin pressure changes and the mask drop down, you put the mask over yourself first, and then you help others. Well, the same thing is everyday life. If you don't take and practice self-compassion and take care of yourself first, you're not going to be good for anybody. You've got to be kind to yourself when you encounter setbacks. And you have to remind yourself that everyone experiences difficulty. It's part of the growth process. And you have to be okay with that. And you have to learn from that. And so much of our time, we get into this rut with this, and we do negative self-talk. We trash ourselves. We've got to stop trashing ourselves, because we self-talk ourselves into all kinds of things. We've got to challenge the negative thoughts. We've got to replace them with positive affirmations. And my mentor, Dr. Amen, he talks about the ants, A-N-T-S, the little ants that are in our brain, and how they are the negative thought processes in our brain, and how we allow them to just run rampant. They keep building their little piles of sand, and we just let them go on and put negative thoughts in us constantly. And it gets to a point where if that continues and we don't break that cycle, that's when depression sets in. That's when all these other things happen to people. People drink more, all the different things that can happen to you that can set your mental capacity in the wrong direction. And so we have to challenge those thoughts. If you think about the brain is the front part of your brain is where everything enters. And that's bombarded with stuff all day long, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's bombarded with stuff. And if we're not filtering that, if we're not challenging some of those things, and they come through our conscious mind enough times, it's then going to settle into our subconscious mind. And our conscious mind is very small. It's a very small part behind the forehead. It's very small. But our subconscious mind is huge. And if the subconscious mind sees something come through a number of times, it's going to see it as a truth and say, wow, she hasn't challenged that. So I guess she wants to keep that. So we're going to move that over into that part of the brain and let it run on autopilot. And that's what happens with a lot of people with mental illness, a lot of people who get indoctrinated into cult type activity. That's what happens. And until something affects them and breaks that cycle, it's not going to get better for them. So you need to be conscious of what you're thinking and where it's coming from, and change that negative into positive self-talk. So challenging them, the negative, and putting a positive affirmation in there. You need to encourage yourself with statements like, I can learn from this. Mistakes help me grow. A lot of the last 20 years, Dr. Amen has done numerous studies, countless, hundreds and hundreds of research projects. And one of the ones that you would probably have noticed something happening in it is the helmets that they're now wearing in football and baseball. Those were due to his doing SPECT scans on individuals that had brain injury, but they had been told they didn't lose consciousness, so they didn't have a brain injury. And over time, it got worse and worse. And it caused a lot of what happens with them, with having a lot of violence come to play. So that's how that all got started. But the helmets have now changed, because if you think about the brain, if you've looked at a brain model, the outside of our brain is very, very hard. And that's fine. It protects our inside, our brain. The brain is kind of the consistency of hamburger before it's cooked, squishy and malleable. But inside of the brain are all kinds of pointy little pieces. So every time you get a concussion or you hit your head, your little hamburger brain is bouncing around off those jagged points and damaging areas of your brain. So if that goes on repeatedly, it can cause some major issues. So they did the studies, they proved it, they have changed those helmets now. They kind of look like a little brain, I think. They got little bumps like a brain in it now. And they also have now done that in baseball as well. So you'll see the helmets have changed for youth ball as well, to actually protect the frontal area. So there's a lot being done about this, but you need to be the one that takes ownership for your own self-talk. And you have to challenge it. I have to do that. It pops into me when I get tired, and I have to challenge it, because it's going to not help you go. It's actually going to make you sick in the end. And so it's very, very important. And that's why taking time every day, take 15 minutes. You can do it in the morning if that works for you. I like to do it in the evening, because it just takes that day and makes things relaxation. My kids knew that, because I was a single parent, they knew that when I came home from work, I needed 15 minutes to myself. And then we could go on with whatever we were going to do, because I needed to decompress from everything that come at me all day long, especially if I was doing a pediatric case or something, and I had to put that in its place. So there's several things that you can do to take care of that. Reflect regularly. Time to reflect on your experiences, what you've learned, and what you can improve. I have my clients journal. There is something magical about writing. We have become so computerized that we really don't, it's just things are being bombarded at us. And when you journal, you're taking something from your brain, it's kind of traveling down your arm to your pen or your pencil, and you're writing it out. And now it's out of you and onto the paper. And it's amazing that one little thing, how that can help you to journal. You may go back and read your journals again. You may never read your journals again, but you've gotten that off and out of your mind, whatever that was that you were reflecting on or that had bothered you that day, and it's going on paper. So I always suggest that my clients, that they journal. The other thing that is very important is to take that 15 minutes, as I said. And what I suggest, some people do yoga, that's fine. Some people do other different things. A simple one to do is to go someplace quiet for 15 minutes. Sit on the floor, sit on bed, whatever. You can put some music on if you want, whatever, but you're going to sit and close your eyes, and you're just going to breathe. And I like to use the analogy to think about an escalator. Now, some of you, if you're young, you might not know what an escalator is, but an escalator is a really good visualization to use. You step on that first step of the escalator, and you slowly go up as you're breathing, and you're letting go of all those things as you're going up the steps. You're letting go of all the things that happened to you today. And as you get to the top, you're just going to start to feel yourself lighter and lighter because you're letting go of all the things that happened that day. And you're putting them, they're going on a step as you're going up. When you get to the top, you want to stop for a few minutes and breathe and just enjoy the feeling of let go of the day. You've put it where it needs to go and you've let go of it. And then you turn around and you go down the escalator. And as you're going down and breathing, you're finding that peace coming to you. So that when you're done with that 15 minutes, you're ready to go be with your family, go do whatever it is you want to do, but you've let go of all of that stress that you've been in during the day, that you may not have seen as stress, but it was there. So we want to take time to reflect every day. Reflect on your experiences, what you've learned, how you can improve. Journal if you like. It's amazing what it does. I have a whole stack of them over the years of journals that I've never read through, gone back to, but I could if I wanted to go back through. But you need to find something that you can do to relax by yourself before you face your family and whatever else you need to do in that day. And by doing it in the evening, it kind of helps you relax, enjoy your family, enjoy those other things that you're going to do that evening, but it helps you to sleep better. And I do a little short breathing before I go to sleep. So by consistently applying these strategies, I would start with one or two. I wouldn't do them all at the same time. You can nurture a growth mindset. You can create a more resilient and adaptable approach to any challenge that comes to you in your life. Because once you've adapted the breathing, you know how to handle things. I set my watch to tap at me every hour. And I take 1 minute and stop when it taps me. And I breathe in for 4 counts and breathe out for 4 counts for that 1 minute. You will be amazed at how much it resets you. I had my staff, when they were stuck, I tell them to go take a 15-minute walk out of the office and come back. And they were surprised at how they had reset themselves and could finish the work they needed to do instead of running on a rabbit, a wheel where they're running around and not getting anything completed. So I want to give you a call to action. I want you to adopt one growth mindset practice over the next 7 days. Start to cultivate your growth mindset. You may already have one, make it stronger. And you will start to turn failure and fear into fuel so that you can take courageous action and make better decisions for yourself moving forward. A strong mindset means you're more aware of self and others, and it helps to increase your emotional intelligence. My mentor, Dr. John Maxwell, says we cannot become what we need by remaining where we are. Be the person that no matter where you go or who you're with, you add value to the lives of those around you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gail. First of all, I would like to ask, are there any questions for Dr. Gail? I agree, it's a great presentation. And I'll make a comment while we're coming to that effect. At the beginning of this year, we used Dr. Gail for our Ross College business team to help launch our mastermind in the growth, developing a growth mindset. And what I love is this presentation was not the same as the one she did for our team. And so I typically don't do this, but I would say if you are working with a team, small or large, and would like for her to come to help you on this topic and others, I definitely do recommend her because she does a wonderful job of making certain that it is tailored to the audience that she's speaking to. So I was penciling away and enjoyed what you did presented today as well. Are there any questions or comments? That's a first.
Well, they can always, if they come up with a question later, they can always email me at gail@gailfrankle.com. It's a very easy email, so I'd be glad to answer other questions.
Okay, here's a question. It says, hi, Dr. Michelle. I love the concepts. What recommendations do you have for entrepreneurs?
It's even harder as an entrepreneur. Doing your mindset training is even more important because I came out of the corporate space and out of the university space and now have my own business. And it is even more imperative that I do the things I talked about today. I take time to reflect. If I'm in a block, I do nothing. I sit down and do something mindless until I can bring myself back, because I know that my brain is still working in the background and trying to help me. But if you don't, it's easy to get really frustrated when you're an entrepreneur because you fail a lot. You fail forward a lot, right? And so it's even more important to do those relaxation techniques and keep those things in mind. And journaling helps because it helps me get setbacks out of my head and those automatic negative thoughts, as Dr. Amen calls them, the ants, the automatic negative thoughts. Because it's too easy for that to take hold of you when you're an entrepreneur. So I would say, all these things can be adapted over to entrepreneurship. You just need to, but by getting yourself right and getting yourself in a routine, the breathing something. I teach kids the breathing technique because they can do it anywhere. Nobody has to know they're breathing, right? Nobody has to know that they're breathing for a minute and ignoring everybody around them. There's just simple things that, because I like things where you can do it anywhere. You can do it at stoplight, you can do it in the middle of a crowd, you can do it anywhere. But relying on those things and knowing that oxygen is what fuels us. So we need to continue to do that, and being positive, knowing you're going to have a lot of failures as an entrepreneur. So you got to learn to embrace them. What did you do? I launched my first thing and I was like, what did I do wrong? But you go back, you take it and look at it and you figure out how you can change it so that it adapts for you, and what worked and what didn't work. And then I surround myself with other entrepreneurs that can say, well, when this happened to me, this is what. So getting that good tight circle of people that you can work with will help a lot.
That's really good. Thank you. Someone asked a question. I'll answer this one and then go back to the next one. The presentations are going to be made available for you to review. We do not share those presentations outright because a lot of the information is copywritten to that individual. So, but you'll be able to review it on our website. Jenny will put that into the chat. The other question was, are there publications you suggest we subscribe to as entrepreneurs? Is it more industry specific? Isn't it me? Even though it's entrepreneurs, is there more of what your focus is?
Yeah, there's more. I think they're pretty specific to what area you're focused in. The basics are the same, but I would go out and just do a search for groups. you know, that you could be, you could join. Check out, there's tons of Facebook groups. There are good Facebook groups. There's tons of LinkedIn groups. I just took a class in LinkedIn and learned all the backside of LinkedIn that I never knew existed. And so I found some really good groups in LinkedIn that I never knew were there. So I would just and try them out and see if it give you something that you you might be interested in.
Awesome. Awesome job. I enjoyed your presentation as usual. I will just remind everyone of the upcoming presentations and offerings here at Franklin University's Leadership Center. Just go to leadership.franklin.edu and you'll see the upcoming events. And then also want to put a plug in early for our 2025 Mason Symposium. So it's in September, I believe the 16th, 17th, and 18th. And I would love for all of you to think in advance if you'd like to register for that event as well. If you have suggestions for the Leadership Center for topics, please feel free to email that to us and we will look at getting experts to talk on those topics. Thank you all very much. I hope everybody's warm and not too wet from the snow. Have a wonderful rest of your day and let's continue to grow.